All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Hawktalk with Easy and the Beards. I'm Easy.
I'm beard number 1.
And beard number 2 is not with us today, but shout out to Avery. He will be back with us sooner than later.
He's got a vacation day in there today, I think.
I believe so. I don't think it's paid vacation, though.
Harper to get it in. Throws it to Ewing. Ewing surrounded. 2 seconds to shoot. He drives. He shoots. He missed. He missed. He missed. We ring the bell, baby. Ding dong. The witch is dead.
Takes the ball at the 30. He's hit and got away. Back upfield to the 35 to the 40. He's to the 45. He's to
But today we have a special guest with us, Seahawk through and through, a great individual and somebody that's brought a lot of success with him to UNCW. Today I'd like to welcome Athletic Director Jimmy Bass.
How you doing, guys? If you had told me you needed a second beard, I wouldn't have shaved for 4 or 5 days, and you'd had a gray beard here. You had another name. So the third beard can be called gray beard.
Okay, that'll work. We'll take it. That'll work with us. But we appreciate you coming out today. Thank you. We've been we've been waiting to have you on and glad to have you on now over the summer. I know you probably still got quite a busy schedule over the summer, but able to take some time with us today, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to be here, and I appreciate what you do to help get the word out about our 19 sports and, our approximately 315 student athletes. We had a terrific year last year on the fields and courts, in the classroom, and then obviously giving back in the community. So we've got a challenge to do better in 19 and 20, as much progress as we made in 18-19.
Absolutely, yeah. And then with the hurricane and everything, too, just the support from the community and what everybody did going through that and recovering from that, it was great to see in the city of Wilmington. But thank you for coming on, Mike.
Well, let's just, a lot of people know a little bit about your background. Let's just talk a little bit more about it, not too much about you yourself, but from Dunn, North Carolina, is that right?
Yeah, I grew up there, and it was right on Interstate 95, just north of Fayetteville, and I grew up hearing that the Chamber of Commerce touted it as exactly halfway between New York City and Miami. I don't know what that means and what good that is, but that's the one thing, and it's close to Campbell University, too.
So you're able to avoid Buies Creek growing up in Dunn, though, right?
Absolutely.
Ended up in Raleigh, right, for undergrad, and then Ohio University for the master's in sports administration. Is that right?
Yeah, and that was then, and I still think now it's the premier sports management program in the world. It's evolved now. That program specifically is a 2-year program now. Ours was accomplished in a year, but did you get your MBA the first year, and then the second year you get a master's of sports management. So it's actually a double master's program of the one there at Ohio University. It's a really good one. They have really great contacts to place those students in internships, and we're talking about not only domestic kids, but also they recruit and bring a lot of international kids to Athens also.
So before the gray beard, what was young beard thinking there going to Ohio University? What were the expectations coming out of that program?
Well, it's interesting. When I first started it, I originally, and my friend Joe Browning will forgive me for saying this, but I wanted to go into radio and television and then even possibly into sports information, which is what it was called in now. It's athletic communications. And it took me about a semester to figure out that my talents and my abilities and my skills, I was better suited to be in a fundraising marketing area. So that's the area I switched up into and was able to land at Davidson College for my internship at a really terrific time and enjoyed working for the Wildcat Club there, growing the ticket sales. Then they were playing 1AA football. Went through a survey. They hired one of the real all-time greats in college athletics, Gene Corrigan, who at Virginia then, but did a survey about whether to de-emphasize the football program. So I went through that and learned a lot about what was, the trends in college athletics as early as 1980 about programs starting to cut back.
And then shortly thereafter, you land in Wilmington. This is back, 30 plus years ago, but you were kind of on the ground here when the Seahawk Club really was officially a club.
Yeah, I guess I was really the first full-time fundraiser here. We had a great period here, engaged a lot of people in the community, established a large volunteer network, team structure of folks that helped us raise money. We attracted a lot of people to the program to give the scholarships. Then actually had 2 really good years of basketball, and Robert McPherson was the coach here. Played for the CAA championship 2 out of those years, and once against David Robinson in Navy, and then one against Kenny, the kid from George Mason. So really battled hard and had a lot of success, with the basketball program then, even back in the 80s, 86 to 89.
And then on your way, like you said, your primary focus all the way up, every stop you were at was pretty much fundraising up until you find your way back to Wilmington, which is obviously fundraising still an important part of the job. But, when do you start transitioning into more of the athletic director side of things?
Well, one of the things I've learned, and it took me about a year here at UNCW back in 2010 and 11, when you get to that chair, you've got to trust the people that are around you and let them do their job. You can't do everything yourself, and I had to catch myself more than once during that first year of trying to do too much. And one of the things I've learned over the almost 9 years now that I've been here now, we have a wonderful staff. They're very committed to UNCW. We let them do their jobs, and I think it shows again. At the top of the show, we talked about the number of championships and our academic progress, and everybody. We have a transparent department. We get along with everybody on campus, and that's our culture here at UNCW. We've got to do that to survive, because we don't have we don't just have buckets and buckets of money flowing from the private sector from a television deal, but it's a nice thing to be able to be a really significant part of the community here at UNCW, certainly in the greater Wilmington community also.
So would you say you kind of cut your teeth then at ECU? Because as you transition from Davidson and then going later then to ECU as an associate AD, and like Mike said, it's been quoted as you're very, very great at fundraising, a prolific fundraiser, quote, is some of the things that have been said about you, and that's great. Now take me through kind of that transition and some of the things you did at ECU that kind of led you then to coming here.
Well, I think I've been around some really terrific athletic directors and folks who have great external backgrounds. I worked with Dave Hart when I was at East Carolina University, and Dave left East Carolina to go be the AD at Florida State and was later at Tennessee. I worked with Oval James at the University of Pittsburgh. Lee Fowler was a very, very good AD at NC State when I was there. Larry Templeton was at Mississippi State while I was there. And I think what you learn there is that every person in the athletic department, including at a place like Mississippi State, in the SEC or NC State, which is in the ACC, all those Power 5 programs, everybody is a fundraiser. Everybody's in touch with folks in the external community almost every day. Coaches, assistant coaches, sports medicine professionals, our academic support people. So, and obviously then you get back to your frontline fundraisers. And so everybody, and everybody wants to be around a winner. So winning helps, but also you've got to be creative and unique in the programs that you offer. And I again, one of my really large principles has been asking people to make an investment in programs, an investment in student athletes, and I think we've done a really, really good job of that in my 9 years here at UNCW, because we finished this past year with a 3.35 GPA, which I think may be the highest GPA ever for a year at UNCW. 5 of our teams had the highest GPA in their respective sports. In the CAA, we had 7 teams who received NCAA public recognition awards, and then obviously we had 4 teams that made it to postseason play in the NCAA, along with an individual in track and field, Mo, who's one of our greatest all-time student athletes here. So, the external, when you hear people say that athletics is certainly not the most important division here or at a university, but it's certainly the most visible. And within the athletic program, that external operation, your fundraising, your marketing, your media relations is certainly the most important function within an athletic program.
Absolutely.
So when you come to Wilmington, like you said, almost 9 years ago now, time flies, doesn't it? You kind of got the lay of the land, like you said, it was a bit of a transitional period. What were some of the things that when you got here, some of the coaches, the athletes, the staff said, hey, this is what we need help with?
I think the one area that we are behind everybody a lot is our scholarship situation. We basically have 2 programs are fully funded. Baseball is pretty much there. Mark Scaff, who obviously just stepped away on July 26th, and Randy Hood took over. Baseball is capable of being fully funded, and they do. And baseball is always a challenge because you have the major league draft that you have to deal with, and you may have offered a kid, and then that kid goes away, and you're not going to waste the money. So, baseball is really close. I consider that we have 3 fully funded programs, and I think we're, from a scholarship standpoint, I think we're just a few scholarships away in softball from being a very, very competitive program in the CAA and in the state of North Carolina. James Madison obviously is a national power in softball, and we've got a way to go. But Christy Norton came from James Madison, so she knows what makes that program tick. Scholarships is a key for us. We have aging facilities that need attention. We know that. Trask. There's a vision for Trask. We're working daily right now to see what we can do with our baseball facilities to continue to grow and make those better. We've had donors that have stepped up to help make our softball facility one of the finest in North Carolina, and I'm very, very, very proud of that effort, and certainly what Christy and her staff have done there. We're working. We've got to find some new tennis courts. We desperately need a field house facility. We're getting ready to do, every 4 years, we do a Title IX review, and it takes a look at everything we do. And we're a little over 4 years away from our last one, and we've got to have a field house that'll serve for those outdoor programs, the soccer programs, the tennis programs, and the track and field programs, a place for them, locker rooms and those type things. So again, we're keenly aware of what we need to do. We've done I think a really good job, particularly over the last 5 years, of trying to bring our salaries for our coaches up so that they're competitive. I think our salaries are competitive for our Seahawk Club staff. The other thing we've done, I think, a really good job of attracting good, solid individuals to work here administratively in our fundraising areas, and certainly some of our assistant coaches. And when you have great people and you have success, again, competitively and academically, people are going to come get them. And so we've had a kind of a little rotation. And again, I don't believe it's anything that we're doing wrong. I think we've just got a great program. And again, we treat our people fairly here and let them do their jobs, and they're talented, and other people come get them. So, but people, scholarship funding, facilities, those are the areas that we know we've got work to do.
What does it take to get there? Do you have, and I know this might be more on the Seahawk Club side, but, is it everyone needs to give just a little percent more? Are you looking on the bigger donations? Is it a combination of everything? Well,
it depends on the area. If you look at scholarship funding, our scholarship bill this past year was a little over $2.8 million. The Seahawks Club gave $765,000 toward that. The other $2 million plus comes from our budget. So you could see, and Adam Fearing and his staff are doing a really good job. They're growing now, and they raised more than that. They raised a couple of $1 million, and some of that is their operating expenses. Some of that is for facility upgrades and improvements, and some of that they're establishing a fund balance or reserve fund. We'd very much like to have 1 full year's worth of scholarship money in a reserve fund, so that if something goes wrong, goes bad, we've got $2.8 or $3 million. So we're working toward that, and so it's a very they work very cooperatively and hand in hand with university advancement. But you could, again, the bottom line, if the Seahawk Club was raising $2.8 million a year, we'd have another $2 million that we could throw into the operation of our programs. But that's where we are right now, and this organization is doing as good a job as any, raising money now at one AAA. There are approximately 99 schools that are one AAA designation by the NCAA, which is Division I without football. Facility-wise, the university is a relatively young university. Started in 1947. We're starting, again, with cooperative efforts with advancement in the Seahawk Club, trying to identify some major gift prospects. And my definition of a major gift prospect is somebody can give more than $50,000. Now, maybe less for the university, but we've got to try to find those folks to help us expand our facilities and renovate and upgrade our facilities. We've got to try to find some folks to help with endowments in the future, so that we're not totally dependent on annual giving dollars, asking somebody to give 10% or 15% more each year. So, and I'm hoping that, again, as the university grows and, they're projecting to have an enrollment of more than 16,000 this year, and we graduate more every year, we're hoping that in the years and decades to come, that those alumni and those lettermen will see fit to give back to the programs. And we allow folks to give directly to the Seahawk Club for scholarships. We allow them to restrict their monies to the operating accounts if they need to. So we want to try to make it as convenient as we can if we find somebody's hot button on how they want to support the program. But those are the basic areas. Again, the annual giving for scholarships, obviously facilities and capital improvements, and then anything as far as endowments.
Okay. And you mentioned competitive salaries for the coaches and whatnot, and the foundation you've laid so far has been that of getting coaches that are buying into what it is you want to do here. Now, do you think that's part of it in the long run, is being able to identify those coaches, pay them a competitive salary to where they don't want to leave, and be able to keep them long term to kind of build and maintain what it is you're trying to do here?
Well, obviously it all starts with people. We're talking about coaches and staff, but more importantly, we talk about our student athletes. Everybody here understands the admissions process at UNCW, and we have to do a report for the Board of Governors every spring. And in the 6 years or so that we've been doing that, we've not had a single admissions exception in my 6 years here. All the kids that the coaches are recruiting are meeting the admission standards for UNCW and have a relatively good opportunity to graduate. So, again, it's all about people. And, we've had to hire some coaches. Obviously, we've been through two men's basketball coaches, I guess 2 women's basketball coaches. We've hired a softball coach. Obviously, we've been through a baseball coaching situation, and I giggle about that one because somebody said that Randy Hood had been interviewing for the job for 17 years. So that worked out really well for us. And so, people love the quality of life here at UNCW and what Southeastern North Carolina and the coast brings. So there are a lot of people who want to work here. And I think one of the things you have to wade through when you're talking with people and hiring positions, if it's coaching, assistant coaches, head coaches, assistant coaches, or administrators or fundraisers, you've got to hire people that really, really want to be here. You've got to hire people that aren't fans. They got to work when they go to the games. And we get a survey every year from the CAA about the salaries in the league, and so we know where we fit with all that. But the chancellor has worked very well with us over the last 4 years as we've been trying to bring those salaries up and make them competitive, not only within CAA, but certainly competitive within the University of North Carolina system also.
You mentioned the coaches. I think it's a total of 12 that you've hired throughout your tenure.
Oh, good.
But yeah.
You mentioned the CAA a little bit, and the league has changed dramatically since you got here. You think about some of the perennial basketball powerhouses when you first got here, the Virginia Commonwealths, the George Masons, a couple football schools leaving for football reasons, and then a couple of new schools coming in Charleston and Elon, which I think from a UNCW perspective is a good thing, bringing in some of these schools a little bit closer, a little bit similar to Wilmington. Talk a little bit about how the conference has changed since you got here, and you mentioned the surveys you get with the salaries. How has that changed as well?
Well, I was the president of the league when we had that shift, and Tom Yeager was the commissioner. And I know that we went after College of Charleston, we went after Elon, we went after Davidson, and we went after Appalachian State. And Appalachian was just starting the move and the decision about where they wanted to play football. Obviously, they were a power in championship subdivision 1AA, and I thought we had a really reasonable shot at every one of them, which would have made it, I think, a terrific basketball league with those folks in it. So we're constantly reviewing as a group of 10 right now in the CAA of where we are. We don't have a crystal ball, so we don't know where we're going, but we're trying to be prepared if something does happen. They're the only one that everybody keeps talking about, the public, certainly not the folks that matter, the administration. There are a lot of folks who are watching James Madison right now with the success of their football program, trying to figure out maybe where they should be playing. But obviously, football's a matter that I don't get involved with those at the conference meetings. But I think the CAA is a terrific league. Obviously, geographically, it's from Boston to Charleston. We've gone to travel partners in the basketball programs last year. This year, we're going to give that I think it's a 5-year run on that to see how that works. It's helped us reduce expenses, I think, significantly. There have been some issues about student-athlete well-being, about whether the kids have enough time to recover with just a day and a half in between a contest. And, we've always had, even when Coach Keats was here, we had a pretty successful tradition of winning on the road, and I think that's going to continue now that Coach McGrath and his staff have kind of retooled here this year. And with 7 new players come in, I think you're going to see the athleticism be a lot better. And I think the 48 hours in between, I don't think it's going to bother this group at all. As long as they stay injury free. We make decisions about how the championships are played. I know there are going to be some changes in the soccer championships, the men and how they play, the women and how they play there at the end of the year. Baseball, we're going to be hosting the CA championship here in 20, goes to Elon in 21 and 22. The men's basketball championship goes to Washington, D.C. In 2021 and 22 into a brand new facility. And I think a lot of the northern schools wanted a more central geographic location. So I hope that will help us from an attendance standpoint, because transportation-wise, it's really easy to get. It's easier to get to Washington, D.C. Now, when you get out on the roads, it's a little more difficult to get around, I guess. But we're excited about going there, and you may or may not know that our men's basketball team will actually play in that facility in November, the week before Thanksgiving, in a tournament against Florida International and Cleveland State, which will give us an opportunity to play in that building before March, and I hope that'll prove to be an advantage for us. But it's a daily thing. There's tremendous communication between all 10 of the ADs and the commissioner. The commissioner has assembled, I think, a very competent staff in Richmond. Sean Murphy is in charge, the associate commissioner in charge of men's basketball. Jennifer Conderas is a deputy commissioner. They're all really, really tuned in to who we are as a group of 10, what our goals are academically and competitively and financially. So, and again, hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about the new Flow Sports thing too, but I'm excited about that. And I think that is an indicator of how progressive thinking our conference staff is as we move forward. So it's a good group right now, and our primary concern is the health and well-being, certainly, of our student athletes, and making sure that we give every one of our student athletes and all of the sports that the conference sponsors championships in a good experience when they're competing in those championships.
So prior to your arrival, the university had gone through 4 athletic directors in about a 7-year period. Now you're going on year 9 and have provided a good amount of stability and like I said before, a great foundation. Something that I found really interesting in your introductory press conference, you mentioned you wanted to give all the tools you could to the university, to the staffs, to student athletes to compete for national championships. Now, in that same breath, you did recognize that it was a tremendous challenge, right? Now, 26 CAA titles since you've been here. That's a big number, and that's competing at a conference level and in this conference and in this area. what obstacles or challenges do you see that maybe you didn't see in the beginning going forward to get to that ultimate national level and compete for a national championship in any sport?
I think it's financial. The evolution of the Power Five and what they've done. Of course, football's a different animal. They own football. They own their revenue. I think what a lot of those leagues may do, I think they're all talking about adding additional conference games, which would eliminate the need to schedule non-conference games, which could affect some of us. We still seek guarantee games to help us with our budget here. And all of our basketball coaches, our men's basketball coaches and women's basketball coaches know that when they get their job and they come here. So I think it's a financial challenge. We're tooling along. We've got about a $14.8 million budget this year, which is 10th in the CAA. But I think, again, we do more with a dollar here. And we've done over the years since I got here, I inherited about an $8 million budget when I got here in 2010. We've had some chancellors, Chancellor Miller, Chancellor Cedarburg, and now Chancellor Sartorelli, who've seen the need for us to increase our budget, to increase it about 69% of our budget is from student fees. But what we've done every year that we've had a significant student fees, we've reinvested them right back into our student athletes. We expanded. The first thing we did about 5 years ago was we added 6 new full-time trainers, sports medicine professionals. I don't know how we provided sports medicine support before I got here, but we've added 6 full-time people for that. We've created what I think is a terrific student-athlete support services area. I mentioned the progress and the awards that our academic area the kids are getting and their graduate or they're getting as a department. But that group works really, really hard. And again, they're integrated within the University Learning Center here at the university. And that group technically works for academic affairs here on campus. So there's tremendous credibility in how we run our academic support program for our student athletes. So financially, we're doing all we can to continue to generate money. The revenue generating sports we have right now are men's basketball and baseball. We're hoping that women's basketball could turn into a revenue generator. Karen has done a wonderful job with her program, and the attendance continues to rise with that. On the larger scene, it's a function of dollars. There was a study done, I think, 2 years ago, and it showed the average budget number for schools in the last few years who had received an at-large bid to the men's basketball tournament, and the minimum that they were spending on their men's basketball program was over $5 million. And I'm not, you don't just throw it at it, but that involves you have to be strategic. There's a lot of chartering. You get kids back here; they're not spending so much time in hotels and airports. They don't miss class, and those are things that we need to be able to do with both of our basketball programs moving forward. So we've got to be strategic about it. But again, what we spend on our programs, it matters, and we know what we spend compared to what the folks in the CAA spend. So that's one of our. I go back to what we just discussed about CAA. One of our aims is to generate more units from men's basketball, and you can do that 2 ways. You can get a second or third team into the NCAA basketball tournament, or you can have a team that's going to win games. And every time you play a game, that's a unit. And those units are paid out over 5 years. And when George Mason, as you mentioned, Mike, when George Mason and Old Dominion and VCU, they were turning out some units. And it's been a kind of a one and done situation for the last 8 years for the league. We did it twice against Duke and Virginia, and Northeastern last year, had a really difficult assignment in their first round game. So we've got to find a way to be competitive. We've got to generate more revenue. We're all hoping that this new Flow Sports deal will continue to generate more money as we move forward. And it's a challenge financially on a national scale.
Okay. And for those that aren't familiar with the Flow Sports deal you've mentioned again, could you just give us a brief little description of what that partnership is with the university?
Yeah, it's I think a 5-year deal that's going to be worth about $4.3 million to the league over those 5 years. It's a subscription service, just like like ESPN Plus or ESPN3. They're going to have, I think, CA football's part. It's a separate deal, but it's part of the overall package. About 50 football games. There are going to be 90 basketball games that are televised on there. And those games would all be behind a paywall, and I think it's $8.99 a month for CAA compared to their other subscriptions. Not all of our basketball games will be behind the paywall, so we'll still have some that'll stream on TealTV like they've done in the past. And I've left out, I guess, CBS Sports Network still going to have some games also. They're making a decision now about what games they're selecting for that. I told Joe Browning on the way over today that I got my login information over the weekend, and if they do the same for CAA basketball that they're doing for CAA football, it's terrific. I got on there over the weekend, and there are pages and pages of features and stories and statistics about the coming CAA football season, and I think and I'm sure they'll do the same thing for it's a terrific service, and I'm hoping. I know it's a change of life for a lot of our fans who have been getting our games for free, but so many of your generation, you're paying for your music online and the other things that you watch online, the movies, the Netflix, and the Amazons, and I hope that we'll prove that the service that our fans get by subscribing to Flow, it'll be worthwhile, and again, it's a very significant cost, a lesser cost than what it is for the normal subscription rates for that. So I hope it'll be good, and I hope that folks will watch it and listen to it and read about it online and let us know what they think.
Now, will soccer be included in that as well?
Hopefully, and because we do Joe Browning and his staff does a really, really good job streaming soccer, volleyball, baseball, softball, and we're hoping that Flow will take some of those games. Joe, we've had conversations, and Joe's looking into now to expanding our production capabilities, which means getting more cameras out there, obviously having qualified commentators on there because it'll be streamed and go. And either one of you guys knows anything about volleyball, call Joe. He needs good volleyball play-by-play guys, and
hey, we'll figure it out.
So, but again, I think it'll be good for us. We're exploring right now. There's a tremendous interest right now. There's a television group in Japan that wants to be able to show our basketball games with Kai Taves playing, and we're trying to work through the details of that right now with the conference office, with Flow Sports, and with ESPN and their various affiliates. And they did the same thing last year with a young man from Japan that played at Gonzaga, and a lot of the Gonzaga's games and their highlight packages were very, very important in the Japanese markets last year. So it's very much turning into an international game right now, and so we hope to be ready and hope get our share of it.
Some views in Japan.
Let's talk about something else that UNCW fans might be spending their dollars on here in the near future is alcohol sales at the sporting events. That was obviously pretty recently approved by the NC State Congress, and I know it's perhaps still undergoing discussions here at UNCW, but I believe it's something that's going to happen. You talk about that timeline and kind of what that means for the UNCW athletic department and the student athletes more so?
Yeah, the board of trustees here at UNCW approved it a week or so ago at their meeting, or approved the ability. Aramark, who's our catering partner here on campus, is going through the process of filing for the permits through the ABC Commission here in North Carolina, and we're waiting for that process to finish. And I know the Aramark, the staff here, the catering staff, and our operations and facility staff are working through the how and how to accomplish that right now. We've got to report back, and but at the very latest, we're hoping that very possibly we could be able to start selling at some point during the soccer season. But if not, we'll definitely hopefully have it in basketball as we move forward. And but I think what we've looked at is are the two soccers, the two basketball programs, and then baseball and softball. So that's what we're looking at. And obviously the outdoor facilities, it certainly won't be a check, but there'll be some restrictions. You'll have to be armbanded. Michael, you've been to Charleston and seen how they've done it, but there'll be an armband process. There'll be an ID check. There'll be an armband process. You could only, in fact, the legislature actually went back and added an amendment that you could only buy one beer or one glass of wine at a time. I know East Carolina was talking about in their football situation was going to allow somebody to buy 2 beers at a time, and then, but will control it from that standpoint. And students who are 21 will be able to buy beer. We will not tolerate underage drinking. We're going to have a more stringent entry policy. We're going to check bags this year to make sure we try to keep alcohol out. People aren't supposed to have it there, and our staff, the Event One staff, and all those folks are going to be trained to try to identify underage drinking. So again, we won't tolerate that, and we'll certainly discourage that at any point that we possibly can. But we think it'll be a nice amenity for our fans to be able to go and go to a baseball game, go to a basketball game, sit and enjoy a beer. And I do not anticipate any conduct problems. And as we move forward, I just don't think it'll happen. And we have a good fan base. They're knowledgeable basketball fans. They're great and knowledgeable baseball fans. So it'll just be a way to add to the experience for the fans when they come here. And we'll still hopefully have a very respectable but a respectable home court and home field advantage that we've had for a long time.
Is that something you think is going to impact the bottom line financially at all on the?
I no doubt. And we've run financial models, and part of the decision process toward the end is going to be how much do we charge. But we've run financial models, and we've seen and I think very conservative models on basketball games, and even when you have to split at some percentage with Aramark because they're doing all the work, it still can be profitable for us, and can be a line of revenue that we're not able to use right now that'll help us.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'll be great to see. And then kind of maybe moving towards the future here, kind of winding it down. Looking back, obviously, there's a lot you have accomplished in your going on 9 years here. But looking forward, what is outside of the national championship competition and getting to that level? What is still one goal or thing that you want to accomplish as a whole with the university going forward, or something you just quite haven't been able to kind of do yet that you still have planned and want to see happen?
I think it goes back again to scholarships. I would love to see all of our sports fully funded according to NCAA maximums. I know there's a bill working its way through the legislature in Raleigh right now that would bring back the out-of-state tuition waivers for any full scholarship student athletes from out of state, that you'd be able to pay in-state tuition rates. Years ago, when that was in effect, we had one of the most competitive women's soccer programs in North Carolina, and it was because they were able to recruit and to afford and bring in some really talented young women from out of state to compete. So I think that's where we've got to get. And there's so many of our coaches I mentioned earlier who are working so hard. They're talented. They know what it takes to compete on a national level and win on a national level. We just need to be able to provide them those scholarship resources so that they have a better chance.
Mm-hmm. What would it take to get a football team here?
Football is a different animal. Mm-hmm. Financially, it would be a real challenge for this program. I mentioned the $14.8 million budget. James Madison has a $48 million budget that they operate a championship subdivision program on, which is more than East Carolina's budget with a bowl subdivision program. Folks laugh at me. For years I've been saying when somebody writes a check for $300 million, I'll start it. But that would be taking care of our women's programs from a Title IX standpoint, building a stadium, building practice facilities, hiring a coaching staff, you'd have to, I look back and see what UNC Charlotte did, how they started their program. They recruited for a couple of years, started playing a less intimidating schedule out of the gate, 5 or 6 games a year, then really jumped into it. Old Dominion has been as successful as anybody. It takes a lot of money. James, our student fees here, the university is, helpful with the student fees, but there's always been a lot of pushback from students and from faculty about continuing to increase our student fee. But if you look at ours this year will be approximately $760, approximately. Mm-hmm. And James Madison's like $1,700 a year. It's and my other concern is if you ever travel on Interstate 40 and on Saturday mornings, and you go sit out there and you see light blue flags and dark blue flags and red flags and purple flags and black and gold flags, they're all headed west. And we have an eclectic group of people here that are from all over the country, and I think that's one of the things that's helped us from a basketball and baseball standpoint. Fans and wherever they went to school and the community that they lived in and supported those schools in the past. But football is just a different animal. It's a different animal from an admission standpoint. It's a different animal from a discipline standpoint on campus. And again, financially, it's just if we had to play football here in 5 years, I don't know where we'd play, because it'll take you 2 or 3 years to build a stadium here. We got no practice facilities, no locker rooms, no offices, and as you build those, again, we've got to take care of, because our ratio right now is going to be about 60% female here in the next school year, 19-20 school year. So technically, that's the percentages that we'd have to spend on a scholarship up on. So I'd love to have football, but if we could, it's got to be fully funded. And we got to give those coaches and those student athletes a chance to be able to compete from a financial standpoint. And I don't know where we are. Again, I say that we've grown from an $8 million budget to about $14.8 million over the last 8 years. So financially, I've talked about finances in almost every phase of our conversation here today, but football would be a very, very significant challenge. And I don't know, even over you guys tell me, where are we headed as a society in the next 20 years with kids? Are kids going to quit playing football in the midget leagues and the Pop Warner leagues? Yeah. Are they going to play soccer? Are they going to play ice hockey? Yeah. Are they going to play baseball? The injuries have been a pretty significant factor in all the surveys and the studies and the things that they do. And I know the NCAA has just rolled out a new catastrophic injury prevention checklist that we're working very diligently on every day to make sure that we meet the standards that the NCAA recommends. We're working with the student health services here on campus to make sure we're doing all the right things. And but you can, the concussion protocols, you can just magnify those things 10 times with a football program. So I'm okay with football programs. I've been around football programs all my life. I worked at NC State and was in charge of the capital fundraising, the major gift fundraising when we expanded Carter Finley Stadium. Yeah. And I know the process that you have to go through, but it takes dollars to make it work.
So you're saying there's a chance?
When Michael gives us $100 million, I would really seriously consider it.
Somebody's going to hear that $300 million check and think, okay. Well.
I misplaced my checkbook. I'll get back to you tomorrow on that one.
Well, and it's not something you're foreign to doing either, because you've helped create and be a part of building the beach volleyball team here and creating a new sport here. So, if anybody could do it, I would put my money on you. But going forward, then, kind of wrap it up here then with some of the upcoming events. You guys have All Hands on Deck, the athletic event that's going on at the Battleship North Carolina. And then also this week you have Coach Randy Hood's introductory press conference introducing him as the head coach of the baseball team. And just anything else that you would like to maybe talk about or put out there that's coming up here.
Well, the start of the new school year, I think school starts on August 21st. Right around then, we have a nice welcome back evening that all the student athletes will come to and all the coaches. The chancellor will be there, and Mike Walker, the dean of students, is usually there, and it's just a nice evening. And what's important to us is trying to make sure we get off to a good start with the new school year and make sure all of our kids feel welcome and make sure they understand all the services that are available and services and resources that are available to them here on campus and certainly within the community. And it's just really, really, really important for us to get. We desperately think we're going to have a really good soccer season, and obviously we're glad to have Sydney Schneider back from her international experience over the summer. So we fully expect not to have a single goal scored on us this year. So I'm kidding, Sydney.
Way to put the pressure on her. Right?
But, seriously, right around the corner, August 10th, Richmond exhibition here for the women's soccer team. You mentioned all hands on deck. August 27th, I believe it's a Tuesday on the Battleship.
Well, and I think the men, they play Duke and South Carolina here in exhibition games. So we've got two really, really difficult challenges in the early part of the season in exhibition games here in Wilmington.
Yeah, that'll definitely get them ready early. And then also that's Wednesday, I believe. Coach Randy Hood's press conference will be Wednesday. So we'd like to thank you again. We appreciate you being on today. We look forward to maybe having you on again in the future.
My pleasure. I look forward to it, and thanks again for what you guys do to help get the word out.
Absolutely. Once again, this was Jimmy Bass. This is another episode of Hawktalk with Easy and the Beards. Thank you.